What is required, if any, of a Georgia real estate license under Megan's law? Nothing. Megan's law does not require a real estate licensee to discover or to disclose the presence of any registered sex offender. However, many licensees do provide information as to how to buy or how a buyer can find such information. Capped off landfill that have been covered with topsoil are sometimes called brownfields. Brownfields are defined as defunct, derelict, or abandoned commercial or industrial site. Random is more likely to be found in North Dakota or Massachusetts than in Florida or Oregon. Radon is found in every state, with the highest concentration in the Great Plains state, the upper Midwest, and the northeast of the United States. 24. Unregulated underground tanks may be present on property that have been in residential use for decades. However, federal law exempt many of them from regulation. In areas where residential oil heat is used, some homes may have underground fuel store tanks, tanks that store heating oil burned on the premise are exempt from current federal regulation, although they may be regulated by state or local law. An environmental impact statement is required in connection with federally funded land development project. An environmental impact statement is required to be prepared in connection with federally funded project. Increasingly, private transaction also require an EIS. A landowner who purchases and then resell land later determined to contain hazardous waste can reduce potential legal liability by conducting a reasonable search for potential environmental damage at the time of purchase. The Superfund amendment created a concept called innocent landowner immunity. One criterion is that due care must have exercised when the property was purchased. The landowner must show that they made a reasonable search called an environmental or phase 1 site assessment to determine that no damage to the property existed. A drywall, synthetic stucco, and vinyl wall covering encourage the growth of mold by encouraging concentration of moisture. Building materials such as drywall may not allow moisture to escape easily. The material used in drywall wick moisture to the nutrition source of glue and paper. Vinyl wallpaper and exterior insulation fish system, that is synthetic stucco, do not allow moisture to escape. BRETA requires that a licensee must work to discover environmental problems and to disclose what he or she knows. BRETA also requires that the licensee disclose what she knows or what he knows. There is no requirement to disclose the problem. Encapsulation is the method of safely disposing of asbestos containing building material encapsulation, or sealing off the disintegrating asbestos. Is an alternative method of asbestos controlling that may be preferable to removal in certain circumstances. Since 1996, federal laws has required landlord and seller to test for the presence of lead paint. No federal required that homeowner test for the presence of lead paint. However, known lead paint hazard must be disclosed. In 1996, the EPA and the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the HUD, issue final regulation requiring disclosure of the presence of any known base paint hazard to potential buyer or rental. In Georgia, it is possible for a purchaser to buy land and have no liability to third party from damages arising from the release of hazardous waste. If the buyer passes a set of criteria, he is considered a bona fide purchaser and does not face liability to third party from damages arising from the release of hazardous waste. The set of criteria are stated in the provision of the limited liability for purchaser of contaminated property in Georgia. Capped off landfill that have been covered with limestone are sometimes called brownfield. Brownfield are defined as defunct, derelict, or abandoned commercial or industrial sites. All of the following are responsible for the Georgia Department of Natural Resources. The DNR, which is the Air and Waste Quality, the Historic Preservation Policy and Practices, the Water Management, except creating the Georgia Land Preservation Trust Fund. The Georgia Land Conservation Council is responsible for promoting community green space preservation and the Land Conservation Trust Fund. The Georgia Land Conservation Council is responsible for okay. Now, John is a real estate salesman. He knows a World War I house of Tina, a prospective buyer. Tina has 2 toddlers and is worried about potential health hazard. Which of the following is true? Because of the age of the house, there is a good likelihood of the presence of the lead base paint. The federal government estimates that lead is present in about 75% of all private housing built before 1978. That is approximately 57 million homes, ranging from low-income apartment to millions of dollars mansions. What health issue result from exposure to high concentration of formaldehyde? The respiratory problems. Formaldehyde cause some individual to suffer a respiratory problem, shortness of breath, wheezing, chest tightness, asthma, and as well as eye and skin irritation, burning sensation in the eye and throat, and has been shown to cause a cancer in animals.